Good morning and buenos dias. I am hiking now out of Mas in Spain. You can kind of see it a little bit behind me. And I'm heading to Pontevedra. It's about an 18-mile day, so going to be a long one. Plus, there's a lot of elevation gain at the beginning. I'm already getting a little out of breath, and it's only been 3 minutes. But yeah, I was going to initially hike longer yesterday. You know, some people hike all the way to Redondola from, where did I wake up yesterday? Oh, from Valencia or Tui. But then when I saw there was a lot of this elevation gain here after Moth, I figured no, that would be way too much. You know, after doing such long mileage, I don't want to go up a steep incline. So I saved it for this morning instead. But yeah, Moss was great. Stayed at the municipal albergue there. Was the first one there. It was honestly a little eerie at first, but luckily other people came. And yeah, had a nice time napping, relaxing. Met some folks, had a great dinner, had a Spanish wine. So yeah, I'm happy to be in Spain. And I am excited because today my phone has finally finished uploading some things to iCloud. Before, I kept getting your iPhone storage is full message. So, you know, the past few days I probably haven't been taking as many photos and videos as I would have liked for you guys, but everything finally uploaded. So now I can take more today and, you know, in the coming days. So thanks for bearing with me there. I have to say, I'm really happy to be in Spain. You know, I think hiking through Portugal showed me what it's like for those of you to do the Camino when, you know, you don't know the language, you don't know the foods, you know, you don't know what to get, how to talk to people. You know, I can read some Portuguese because of my Spanish, and I can speak a little bit, but really not a lot. And yeah, like I just don't know enough about the foods. So I'm so happy to be here in Spain and be able to understand people for the most part and order the things I love. So, you know, yesterday I got Tinto de Verano, which is one of my all-time favorites. It's, you know, directly translates to like wine of summer, which I think is really cute. And it's red wine and lemon soda typically. So I think of it like sangria's little cousin. You know, it has a similar taste, but it's a lot lighter because it's not as alcoholic. It's a lot more refreshing. It's really perfect after a day of hiking. And it's my understanding that, you know, locals even, they drink Tinto de Verano more than they drink sangria. So I got one of those yesterday. And then, let's see, today I'm hoping to get one of my favorite breakfast dishes, which is tostada con tomate y aceite. So that's like a really nice toast with this tomato spread and drizzled in olive oil. Sometimes you can even get it with like ham and other things. But yeah, hoping to find that this morning. Yeah, and in general, you know, I know the Portuguese way hasn't been as popular for nearly as long as the French way. So, you know, I heard somebody say that the Spanish, they really know how to make money off of pilgrims, whereas the Portuguese are, maybe they're still trying to figure that out. And I could definitely see that on the way. You know, it's like I would go through some towns in Portugal, like dying for a break, really wanting lunch or breakfast or something, and then like the cafes wouldn't be open. And, you know, I understand that at like 6:30 in the morning, but sometimes this was at like 9, 10 a.m. Or like I remember on one of my first days, I was really trying to find lunch and it seemed like all of the cafes only had breakfast. Like they only had pastries and sweets. They didn't have anything else. And I just found that a little bit odd. But to be fair, that was, you know, the day walking out of Porto, really walking through all these little suburban areas. So I guess they're just focused more on their own area, less on the Camino. compared to some, like small towns where they really focus more on the pilgrims. But yeah, I'm excited to see how the Spanish side of the Portuguese way compares to the Portuguese side. So that'll be interesting to see. Yesterday I passed the 100 kilometers marker, which means there's 100k left to Santiago de Compostela. So that's a big deal for a few reasons. A, it means, of course, that I'm getting closer and that, the end is only a few days away. But B, that also means the trail will probably get more crowded. Many people, if they don't have the ability physically or, due to time constraints or what have you, they will start, one of the popular Camino routes somewhere around the 100k mark. So in 2024, Sarria, Spain, was the most popular starting point. That's at around 100k on the Camino Francés. Porto was number 2, of course, for the central and coastal routes. And then Tui, which I passed yesterday, is number 3. So, there can be times when the trail can get more crowded. I didn't really see that too much yesterday. It did seem busier than it had been, which honestly was a welcome sight because I feel like I've barely seen anyone when I've been hiking. But I did stay off stage last night, so that means I stayed in a place where a guidebook doesn't tell you to stay. And, I just did that because I felt like it fit with my plans well. But if you really want to avoid crowds, that is the way to do it. I did that when I did the Francés. I've heard a lot of people complain that the Francés can just get so overrun with groups of people in the last 100k, but I didn't find that at all in my experience when I stayed off stage. So just a little tip for you. My heart is so happy. I just stopped in a cafe and had my first Spanish breakfast of this Camino. I had a tostada con tomate y aceite and a café con leche. It was divine. It really feels like coming home in a way when you return to a country you've been before and you get some of your favorite foods that you've missed. It's really comforting, and so that was so nice. Such a nice way to break up this hike. I'm hoping to make a few stops. I have a bed reserved. It's such a long day. So, yeah, that was great. And, this morning I hadn't seen a single other pilgrim out. But then as I was sitting there, this Portuguese couple came in who I had seen in my albergue this morning. So they sat with me and we chatted a little bit. And that was cool talking with them. I guess the husband had done this Camino before, and then on this one his wife is joining him. So yeah, it's always nice to meet other pilgrims, and the cafe stops are a good place to do that. And now I'm continuing hiking, and it's just absolutely beautiful. There's mountain views, it's sunny, the birds are chirping. I'm really loving today so far. So it was interesting. How I was saying earlier that I had heard from some folks who live in Spain that they feel like the Spanish, really know how to make money off of pilgrims, whereas the Portuguese are maybe still figuring it out. So the couple I was chatting with at breakfast said something similar. The guy said, he thinks the Portuguese are a little bit more, they're just not as organized on the Camino as the Spanish are. So it was interesting to hear that from him, someone from Portugal. But yeah, definitely in just a few days, I've well, really only day that I've been on the Spanish side of this route in particular, I've noticed that, you see a lot more signs for the Camino, a lot more businesses that, look like they're catered to pilgrims. In Tui, I even walked past, I think it was called like the Pilgrim Cafe or something like that. And in Moss last night, even though it's a teeny, teeny, tiny town, there was a pilgrim store full of, magnets and keychains and jewelry all tied to the Camino. And, some of that might be because it is the last 100K. Like I said, that can get more crowded. But yeah, it does seem that the Spanish are a little bit more organized in that regard. So I'm hiking through Redondola now, which is actually where the coastal Camino meets the central Portuguese route. So, this looks like a really cool city, and I am planning on staying here when I do the coastal route. So I'll be excited to explore it a bit more. It's so cute. As I've been walking through the town that's just past Arcade, I've seen a bunch of tables with different things for sale for the pilgrims, like painted shells. And then I saw one with cute little pins with arrows. And they said all sorts of things like Porto to Santiago 2025, Camino Portugués 2025. So I decided to get one of those because I've kind of wanted something for my backpack to commemorate this Camino, but I already have a Camino de Santiago 2023 patch, so I didn't necessarily want another patch. So the Camino Portugués pin is just perfect. So this lovely little forest trail has gotten to be quite rocky and steep, so I'm getting pretty tired, especially since it's pretty hot today. So I did take a little break back there, ate some of my favorite cookies, drank some water. Thankfully, somehow it looks like there's an unexpected stop up here. Oh my gosh, that was so nice. It's been a long day. I hadn't stopped since this morning. I was getting really tired and hot, especially after all of these uphill stretches here in the forest. I literally had stopped taking my break and then walked just a few meters, and then I saw all these tents set up, and yeah, it was just kind of this impromptu stop for pilgrims where you could get snacks and drinks, and they even had some like Camino shells and magnets and things like that. They had two precious dogs, Frida and Leia, and they were loving all the attention, so I loved that. So yeah, it's not even on the map, so it was quite the surprise, especially since there won't be another stop for a while. So that was perfect, exactly what I needed, and I love to see that on the way. Yeah, along the Camino Frances, I saw, kind of impromptu little food stops like that set up along the way, but this was the first one that I saw on the Portuguese Camino. So cool to see, those people are really smart setting that up there because there's not another stop probably for a long time. But B, it's just, really nice for the pilgrims and nice that the locals recognize this need and you know, they're taking advantage of it for the money, but it's a good vibe. And, you know, a lot of times those places, the folks are pretty passionate about the Camino and helping out the pilgrims, which is nice. It was an absolutely beautiful walk the rest of the way to Pontevedra, walking alongside fields, seeing horses. I did make a quick lunch break on the way, and then by the time I made it to town, met up with my friend, cleaned up, went to Pilgrim's Mass, and had a lovely dinner enjoying one of my absolute favorite foods in Spain, patatas bravas. That's all I have for now, folks. If you liked this video, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos on my journey along the Camino Portugués.